Once upon a time, if you were looking to buy the perfect family vehicle, you were looking at a mid-size sedan. However, those days are long gone because what I have today are two of the best-selling family vehicles that you can buy. On my right, the Toyota RAV4, and on my left, the all-new 2023 Nissan Rogue. But which one of these two family SUVs is actually the better buy? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before we get started with this comparison test, I want to point out that the Honda CR-V, which is technically the second best-selling model, isn't here, and that's because I wasn't sadly able to get one in time for this video, but I am wearing my Honda Civic Type R shirt, so the Honda is here in spirit. But let's go ahead and talk about the styling differences between these two compact SUVs. Remember, these two vehicles are the top sellers. The RAV, Toyota consistently does over 400,000 units. They did around 420,000 last year, while Nissan was right behind. They did around 285,000 Rogues. The CR-V was technically in number two. Honda did around 350,000 units, and it was all new for 2023. But let's go ahead and talk about the styling differences, because these two models couldn't be more different, but they also couldn't be a lot more similar, because the RAV4, let me start with this, got a pretty significant refresh back in 2022. This was an all-new model back in 2019. As you can see, it wears the familiar Toyota design language here. You have the company's corporate grille. This particular model here is an XSE hybrid, so technically the powertrains don't quite match up because Nissan doesn't offer a hybrid of the Rogue, but the prices do match up, so I can see why some consumers may compare the two. You can see the RAV4 has these full LED headlights with LED daytime running lights, LED low and high beams. These are also adaptive swiveling headlights if you guys go for certain trims. And then you also have this little LED light pipe here, an accent light that's part of the XSE package. Some other trims of the RAVs will also offer a fog light combination. And then you can see here there's also the blue Toyota badge. I also like the paint scheme here. You have a two-tone look here with the gloss black roof. It goes very well with the white exterior. Now, in contrast, the Rogue has a much more, I'd say, truck-like rugged look, although the RAV kind of has a mini 4Runner design as well. The grille, as you can see on the Rogue, is much larger. You have Nissan's corporate V-Motion grille. A lot more chrome on this vehicle. If you want blacked out accents on the Rogue, you have to go for the Midnight Edition, which is its own specific trim. This is the fully loaded Platinum grade, which gives you a lot more of a luxury car look. You can see Nissan also has standard full LED headlights, although unlike the Toyota, the headlight modules are separated from the turn signal and the LED daytime running light. Nissan also offers a fog light down here as an accessory, and then you can see there's a lot more chrome trim. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think of the design. Personally, for me, I like the look of the RAV4 more. However, I wouldn't fault you for going for the Rogue. It is also a pretty handsome looking vehicle. Looking at the side profile of both of these compact SUVs, you can see they are pretty similar. Both Toyota and Nissan wanted to go with more of a boxier, more truck-like design theme here. Toyota, again, came out with this car back in 2019. And in terms of the overall length, the Toyota is around 180.9 inches long. Its wheelbase is around 105.9 inches long. So this is actually the smaller of the two vehicles. But from the looks of it, you won't be able to tell, really. You are going to notice a difference on the interior, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. Now, this XSE hybrid model comes with these really attractive looking black set of 18-inch wheels. They're wrapped in 225 with tires. These are Michelin tires. And you can see if you peek underneath here, the XSE and SE grades actually have a blue painted strut tower bar because this has a sportier suspension tune. Toyota says this model has roughly 8.2 inches of ground clearance, which if you guys want more ground clearance, they do offer a TRD off-road model and an adventure model, which has about 8.6 inches of ground clearance. I also like how on the XSE you have black painted side mirrors, you have a panoramic sunroof, and a black painted roof. This is all part of a color combination package that's like an additional $450. I highly recommend that if you guys are considering the XSE trim. Now, in contrast, the Rogue, you can see, also has kind of a muscular, boxy design theme here, and this vehicle at 183 inches long is about an inch longer than the RAV. Its wheelbase is also half an inch longer as well. The difference, however, is the RAV is actually slightly taller and slightly wider, so that's something to keep in mind if you guys are considering you're going to be parking these vehicles in a tighter parking area. The Rogue, in contrast as well, also comes with 19-inch wheels. So this is the Platinum grade. You can get 19s on a RAV4 only if you buy the RAV4 Prime in the XSE trim. Other than that, the Rogue's 19-inch wheels are wrapped in 235/55 tires, so these are actually a slightly wider tire, a 10mm wider tire, and the Rogue has roughly about 8.1 inches of ground clearance, so they're pretty similar if you guys are looking to take any of these vehicles slightly off-road. Looking at the rear of both of these SUVs, you can see they both have their own distinctive look to them with some really nice technology back here. You can see the RAV4, we've seen this design for a couple of years now. Toyota gave it an update for 2022. Although it looks pretty much the same, the XSE model definitely spices things up a bit. You can see the two-tone black combination definitely looks good with the white exterior. This particular one here has the black emblem appearance package. So it basically just covers up the chrome emblems with black emblems, which look good. You have a black painted rear bumper, and then you can see the taillights. They are an LED combination. So you have LED brake lights, LED taillights. However, the turn signal and the reverse light is actually just an incandescent design. Overall, I like the RAV4's look. I think it's aged very well and it's very purposeful. It doesn't stand out in any kind of gaudy way. Now, in contrast, the Rogue's design also is a little bit boxy. And Nissan's taillight design is kind of similar to Toyota's. So you have an LED combination for the taillight, for the brake light. You can see the turn signal, however, is just an incandescent along with the reverse light. The Nissan's tag lights, however, are incandescent versus on the RAV, they're actually LED. So I don't like how Nissan kind of cheaps out there. And then looking at the rear bumper, you can see there are some unpainted elements with some chrome. They both have parking sensors, which is nice. However, the Toyota, I like how Toyota gives you dual chrome exhaust tips, whereas on the Nissan, they kind of hide it underneath the rear bumper. But let's go ahead and talk about the cargo space. I'm going to start with the RAV4 because these are both two-row compact SUVs, and this is why people buy these over a family car, because when you have the seats up like this, the RAV offers up to 37.5 cubic feet of storage space. You can see that is plentiful amounts of space. It's actually a little bit more versus when you compare it to the Nissan. You can see the Nissan's cargo area is around 36.5 cubic feet. However, if you fold down the back seat of the Nissan, you get around 74 cubic feet of space versus on the Toyota, you get around 69 cubic feet of space, which is still a good amount, but just keep in mind the Nissan has more when the seats are folded flat. One other clever trick with the Nissan is this really nifty feature called divide and hide. So you can see you can actually move around these two panels that make up a false floor, or you can get rid of them entirely and you have this underfloor storage here, which is nice. And then if you look underneath here, the Nissan offers a temporary spare tire. Now in contrast, the Toyota doesn't really have that kind of nifty feature. If you look underneath the floor here, instead you just find a temporary spare tire. So if you want some of that clever storage solution, the Nissan definitely has the Toyota beat. So now let's take a look at the interiors of both the new RAV4 and the Nissan Rogue. Let me start with the Toyota because on this XSE grade, I hope you guys like a dark interior because Toyota doesn't offer any lighter color combinations when you go for the SE or the XSE. You'll have to step up to the Limited, which will lose a lot of the sportier elements like the black wheels, the Sportune suspension, and the two-tone color combination on the outside by going with a Limited trim. You can see the XSE has these Soft-Tex black leather seats with the blue contrasting stitching. These are heated seats. If you want ventilated seats, you have to go to the Limited grade. Keep in mind, Toyota doesn't offer real leather in their interiors. This is their Soft-Tex, which is a faux leather combination. You can see you have black accents, soft touch materials here on the upper door panels with the blue stitching. And then you can see here, the rest of this interior is pretty familiar. However, I will point out that the RAV's interior is the older model. There's a 2023 that has a bigger 10.25-inch display versus the 9-inch display that you get here with the semi-digital instrument cluster, which now has a fully digital on the 2023 model. But as I get in and shut the door, you can hear the door has a relatively solid sounding thunk. And then here's the key fob for the vehicle. You can see this is Toyota's corporate key. It doesn't have a remote start on the fob, but you can access that through the Toyota Connected Services app. But when you start the vehicle up, you can see no traditional starter noise because this is a hybrid, and this is pretty much the same interior that I've shown you guys before. You have a 7-inch display here, a 9-inch display over here. This has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but it is connected via a wired connection. The new 2023 model will have wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, and it'll also have over-the-air updates. You can see the screen resolution is fine, although it's definitely not as good as the newer Toyota Connected Services system. You have a soft touch injection molded plastic on the dash with some blue accented stitching, a nice little shelf over there, and then you have a wireless phone charging pad over here. You have dual zone climate control, which you can see really large knobs here, which kind of have a textured rubber feel. It all feels very utilitarian. And then when you put the vehicle into reverse here, the RAV offers a full 360 camera with trajectory, distance markers, and parking sensors, but you can see the graphics and resolution there is crap. I have not sat inside or seen a 2023 RAV4, so I won't be able to comment on the better quality, but if it's like the newer Toyotas that have it, it'll be much improved. Down here you can see you have your drive mode selector. There's Eco, Sport, Normal, and then there's also a trail mode for those of you who want to take this vehicle off-roading. The hybrid model also comes with an EV mode that gives you very low speed access to electric only driving. And then you can see the RAV also offers this really nifty digital camera rearview mirror, which again, for those of you who have a lot of stuff in the back that blocks your view, this is a really nice feature. The Toyota also has LED map lighting in here, and you have a big panoramic roof that's part of a $500 option. The seats are comfortable and supportive, especially on longer drives. And they also look pretty good, but I wish Toyota would offer a lighter color on the RAV4 hybrid. And then you can see here the glove box is damped but not lined with felt. It's a pretty decent size. Cup holders over here. Then you can see, open it up, there's a pretty good storage area and a nice padded center console area. But let me go ahead and show you guys the back seat. But you can see, just because I forgot, there's 2-person memory, and the seats, they adjust in 10 different ways. But let's go ahead and take a look at the back seat, because the RAV4 has a relatively practical back seat. I will say the door doesn't open as large as I would like it to. For those of you who plan to put child seats back here, you can see materials are pretty much the same as the front seats, which is nice. You have around 36.5 inches of legroom back here. The seats themselves, they also do offer a recline function, which is nice for those of you who plan to have people in the back seat constantly. You can see getting back here and shutting the door. There is a fairly good amount of space back here for me. I'm going to switch over to the other side here and show you guys. The vehicle is wide enough to be able to accommodate 3 people across. There's an armrest here that folds down, gives you 2 cup holders. The Toyota also gives you rear seat air vents, and you have 2 USB-C charging ports back here, so that's nice, along with 1 storage pocket. And you can see here the panoramic roof that opens up. There is a big black panel here that kind of cuts into the view, but it does come all the way into the back, which is definitely nice to see. But let's go ahead and hop inside the interior of the Rogue. Now, in contrast, the Rogue's interior almost looks like it belongs in an Infiniti, because I love this color combination here with the champagne silver with the tan interior. You can see it's got beautiful quilted leather. This is real semi-aniline, genuine cowhide. There's perforation in here. However, the seats are only heated. Nissan doesn't offer cooled seats like you can get on the Toyota. You have a 10-way power driver seat with 2-person memory that's carried over, or it's the same as in the RAV4. And then you have really nice materials here, soft touch with some real leather along the door panels. This car also has the upgraded Bose stereo, which the Toyota, I forgot to mention, has a JBL sound system. It sounds pretty similar, so I'd probably say that those two are in that key area. The 2 vehicles are about the same. Now, getting in, it has a nice step-in height, just like the RAV, and then as I get in and shut the door has a more solid sounding thunk in the Nissan. I will admit that. This is built off of a new architecture Nissan claims. And you can see here, it's also got a new key fob, and it also includes remote start on the fob. That's something that Toyota doesn't include, but you should be able to access this car through your Nissan Connect app as well. Now, starting the vehicle up, you can see this is not a hybrid, so you have a traditional starter noise, and then you have really impressive looking tech. But I haven't sat inside a 2023 RAV. You can see the Platinum grade includes this fully digital cluster, which looks like it belongs in a luxury car. You can kind of customize the way this looks as well. You can change the meter view. You can change the personalized display. You can see you can go to a traditional view. I love the graphics that it does. You can see there's a 9-inch touchscreen here with Nissan Connect. This is not their latest head unit here, but it does have wireless Apple CarPlay, but wired connection Android Auto. You have really nice, beautiful leather stitching here with real leather on the dash, soft touch injection molded plastic. The Rogue also offers a heads-up display, which you can only get on the RAV4 Prime. And then there's a material here that tries to look like wood, but this is clearly plastic. When you touch it, it's smooth, but it has the texture of wood along with the texturized aluminum trim. When you put the vehicle into reverse here, you can see the 360 camera with moving object detection and rear cross-driver alert. The graphics just look much better. But again, I have to see a 2023 RAV4 to fully compare them. The Rogue also fights back with tri-zone climate control, which is nice. You have driver, passenger, and rear passenger, heated steering wheel, 3-level heated seats. A lot of the controls feel pretty nice, but have less of a utilitarian feel and more of an upscale feel. You can see there's a wireless phone charging pad here. This controls the CVT. And then you have a drive mode selector here. The Rogue offers 4 different drive modes, just like on the Toyota, but the Toyota doesn't offer a snow mode. Most of you will probably have it in eco mode, although technically that's 5 because there's also a sport mode. There's some interesting textured plastic material here that tries to look like aluminum. There's a more premium looking center console here with ambient LED lighting. That's something the RAV4 doesn't offer. So again, more storage down here. And then the glove compartment you can see is same bin style. It's damped but not lined with felt. So overall, the cabin definitely has a more premium vibe in the Rogue. However, I am noticing incandescent design for the map lights. There is a big panel roof that also opens up, so that's pretty similar to the Toyota. And overall, the feel is just a lot more premium, aside from a couple of things like the dated looking yellow map lights. But let me go ahead and hop into the back seat real quick, because on the Rogue, The back seat is a little bit larger, and you can see here, check out the door. It opens up much larger, so if you need to get a child seat back here, this is gonna be easier. And in terms of this seat here, you can see it also slightly reclines or it folds down flat. Just like on the RAV, you have the same beautiful quilted leather. These are heated seats back here, which you cannot get on the XSE, but I believe you can on the Limited. And then on the Nissan, you can see you have these manual rear sunshades. This is kind of a rare feature in this segment. Sadly, this material here on the upper portion is hard touch plastic, but you have the same beautiful soft leather over here on the door panels. And then when you get inside, you can see the legroom is around 37.5, so you have an extra inch of legroom back here, plenty of headroom. You also have some map lighting back here. The panoramic roof lets in a lot of light, which is nice. You have 2 storage pockets as opposed to 1 in the Toyota. And then the Nissan, like I said, gives you 3 level heated seats. And then you also have 2 USB charging ports, your own climate controls, rear seat air vents, and then you also have an armrest that folds down and gives you 2 cup holders. So obviously, if you guys are looking for more of a premium luxury car feel, the Rogue is going to be it. It also gives you a little bit more back seat space, but the Toyota isn't far behind, and I really need to sit inside a 2023 model to fully compare the two. Now, underneath the hood of these 2 SUVs, they couldn't be more different. And while some of you may think that you can't compare the electrified Toyota to the turbocharged only Nissan, they are the same price. So likely a lot of shoppers are going to be cross-shopping the 2 vehicles. But let's go ahead and first start with the powertrain specs on the RAV. Now, under the hood of the RAV4 hybrid, the current generation, you have Toyota's latest version of their hybrid Synergy drive system. It pairs a 2.5-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder that runs on the Atkinson cycle. It also has direct injection. The engine on its own makes around 176 horsepower and 163 pound-feet of torque. It's augmented by up to 3 electric motors. There's 2 at the front, 1 at the back axle to give this vehicle all-wheel drive. They call it electronic on-demand all-wheel drive. And you have an electronic CVT transmission, which Toyota has been using this powertrain for a few years now. They've pretty much perfected it. It gets pretty good numbers, 219 horsepower combined. And then Toyota does not quote a torque figure on their hybrid powertrain, but you know it's an electrified powertrain. It has a lot of torque off the line. It's what gives this car a pretty quick feel. Fuel economy is also among the tops in the class. The RAV4 hybrid is rated at 41 in the city, 38 on the highway, which is very impressive numbers. The vehicle is also rated to tow up to 1,750 pounds, and as this vehicle sits, it weighs in at just over 3,800 pounds. 0 to 60 should be in the mid 7-second range. Now, in contrast, the Rogue, Nissan does not offer an electrified powertrain on this vehicle. Instead, what you get is a new engine this year. This is last year. It's a 1.5-liter turbocharged gasoline direct injection 3-cylinder. That's right. This is a 3-cylinder that runs off of their variable compression turbo technology, which means the engine can actually alter the compression ratio on demand based on whether you want more efficiency or more power. And it actually makes pretty decent numbers, 201 horsepower. Now, if you're keeping score, that's about 18 less than the RAV4 hybrid. Nissan also quotes this at 225 pound-feet of torque, which is a pretty big increase over the old 2.5-liter engine. Now, just like other Nissans, this uses a version of their Xtronic CVT. It's now in its latest generation. Nissan has shortened the gear ratios. They've strengthened the internals. And fuel economy is rated at 28 in the city and 34 on the highway. This uses regular gas, just like the RAV4. So obviously much lower gas mileage, but remember, this is not a hybrid vehicle. Nissan doesn't quote a 0 to 60 time, but it should be just under 8 seconds. It should be pretty similar to the RAV. And this vehicle will tow a maximum of 1,500 pounds. And as it sits, the Rogue is slightly lighter because it doesn't have the battery packs weighing it down. This model here, as it sits, is around 3,700 pounds. So to kick off the driving portion of this comparison test, we are starting in the RAV4 Hybrid XSE. Now, I wanted to start with this because Toyota sells a ton of RAV4s. I mean, the hybrid model accounts for at least 25% of sales. And I wanted to show you guys what the driving dynamics are like, but I want to first start off with the 0 to 60 performance. This is the more powerful car compared to the Rogue, so it's kind of almost going to turn into a turbo versus electrified theme here. And just like other RAV4 hybrids, this comes standard with all-wheel drive. So let's go ahead and put it in sport mode. We'll brake torque it. It spins the wheels a little bit actually off the line, but this thing feels quick. Really smooth power delivery, and wow, 6.94 seconds there. That's actually a really impressive performance. Toyota, I want to say they've quoted this at like 7.8 or something like that, which is actually the number that I got in the Rogue. 6.9 is pretty impressive. Now remember, the RAV4 Prime, if you want even more speed, is quicker than this car by at least a second. 5.5 easily in the RAV. So this is very impressive performance considering this is just the regular hybrid, and this is the model that Toyota sells a ton of these for. Now, back to the driving dynamics of the XSE. This has the Sport Tune suspension for this vehicle. So what it means is it has a slightly more stiffer suspension tune. The steering feel is also, I'd say, a little bit more heavy versus other RAVs. The suspension also still feels relatively soft, so don't confuse this car for being a sporty SUV. It's definitely a sporty looking SUV. Does it drive sporty? Yes and no. I mean, the Mazda CX-5 has always been kind of the benchmark for me for sporting driving dynamics, but I mean, this is perfectly competent and acceptable. The ride quality in this vehicle is comfortable. The noise in this car also is relatively subdued. There is a fairly good amount of wind noise at higher speeds, and then when you push your foot down harder, the engine definitely makes itself known. But the beauty about the hybrid system is it has plenty of power everywhere, and because of the electric motor's instant torque, you just put your foot down, the revs raise, and you feel that wave of torque just push you back into the seat, which makes this car feel faster in day-to-day driving. I think that's what's important for a lot of people who drive a vehicle like this in everyday traffic, whatnot, because in traffic it'll drive in electric only alone, and then on the highway put your foot down and it gets up to highway speeds just fine. The seats are also very comfortable and supportive. You cannot get cooled seats on this trim, however. You have to go up to the limited grade on the hybrid XSE. The XSE Prime, you can get cooled seats. Visibility is also good. Toyota's Safety Sense 2.5 is standard, so you have full speed range adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert. I love the digital camera review mirror. I think that does a great job in giving this car even better visibility, which it already has one of the better visibilities in the segment. I can see out of this car very well. You have a nice commanding view of the road. And then playing with the drive modes here, most of you will drive it around in normal or eco mode, and it just goes about its business. It's very smooth. The CVT also behaves really well. It actually almost acts like a direct drive transmission at times, but every time you put your foot down, it just immediately pushes the engine into the meat of the power band. So overall, very impressed. And in terms of the fuel economy, this car has been averaging 42.6 mpg. And it's got almost 15,000 miles on it. So again, very excellent fuel economy, and I think that is going to be what probably sells a lot of people, especially when you're comparing the gas RAV4 to just the hybrid model. So after just hopping out of the RAV4 and into the Rogue, the two cars feel pretty similar, although the Nissan instantly gives you the impression that you're driving more of a luxurious vehicle, more particularly because of this interior color. Now, in terms of acceleration, the RAV surprised me, 6.9 seconds 0 to 60. Of course, a more fair comparison test would be if I'm driving the gas-only RAV, but because the two vehicles are the same price, you can always compare the two cars, because it's like for the same money you could get a hybrid RAV4 versus a gas-only Nissan. Now, without question, I suspect this car is going to be slower, but I also know it's going to be faster than the gas-only RAV because I have driven that a few times. But let's go ahead and see what we can get on this same stretch of road 0 to 60 wise. We'll just floor it, we'll not brake torque it. Definitely doesn't have the same urgency off the line as the RAV4. 8.2 seconds on this run, and remember, I did it in 6.9 in the RAV4 on that same stretch of road. So there is something to be said about electrification, especially Toyota's system is just really good. In day-to-day driving, you instantly notice that the Nissan feels a little bit laggy. The sound this engine makes, however, is far more interesting. I do love the way this inline 3-cylinder has been tuned to kind of sound like half of a VQ V6, and it has plenty of mid-range torque. I mean, 8.2 seconds isn't slow, but it is, not as quick. I did get a quicker time when I first drove this car for the full review, so if you want to click on or watch that, be sure to click on the link in the description below. But overall, put your foot down here, you can feel the CVT does about its business without much fuss, although it is a little bit slow and laggy off the line. That's kind of the beauty about these electrified powertrains, is the CVT and the turbo having to basically wake up. You're noticing that lag, that turbo lag with the lag from the CVT. You don't feel that in the hybrid RAV4 because of the fact that electric motors deliver instantaneous torque, and Toyota's eCVT initially will behave like a direct drive transmission because of the fact that the electric motor is providing all of that additional power. Now, in terms of Handling, the Rogue does feel noticeably softer. The Toyota, I'm surprised to say, is actually the sportier feeling vehicle between the two. And in terms of visibility, the Rogue has slightly better views. The windshield is a little bit bigger. The view out of the side is better. Nissan's Safety Shield 360 works fairly well. It's about on par with Toyota's Safety Sense 2.5. There's no digital camera rearview mirror in this car. And in terms of the seats, I actually think the seats are pretty similar. I can't tell you which one is a bit more comfortable. I like the way these look more, but the Toyotas, even though they are the Softex, they're also surprisingly plush. You cannot get cooled seats on the Nissan, but you can on the RAV4, so that's kind of something that for comfort is better. But the Nissan has a heads-up display, which is definitely a nice addition. And in terms of fuel economy, in the Toyota, we were averaging around 42 mpg. In this car, we were getting around 29 to 30 mpg. So pretty good mpg for a gas-only vehicle. But imagine if Nissan did a turbo hybrid CVT version of the Rogue. Technically, there is a turbo hybrid in the Korean twins, but they use a 6-speed automatic. What I don't like about this car is the driveline shudder I'm getting. Above 4,000 RPM, there is like a slight shudder that you feel in, I don't even know where it's coming from. It feels like it's coming from the rear. But the Rogue is still a decently good car. It's just not going to be as refined and smooth as what you're getting out of the RAV4 hybrid. Now, comparing this to the gas-only RAV, the RAV's 8-speed auto is going to give you a more traditional feel, but the Rogue is going to be quicker by about a second to a second and a half faster because of the naturally aspirated engine. The Toyota, this turbo engine delivers all that delicious mid-range grunt, and it delivers a nice and refined driving experience, typical of this class, especially if you're just planning to use this as a daily driver. So when it comes to a practical, comfortable, compact SUV that's perfect for your family, you can't really go wrong with any of these two options. Both the Nissan Rogue and the Toyota RAV4 are top sellers for a very specific reason. And after spending some time in both of these vehicles, it's pretty easy to see why. They are just really easy to live with. They have plenty of power. They get good gas miles. They're so comfortable. And they're full of the latest technology features that most buyers in today's market seriously demand. Now, trying to choose between the two is really going to come down to your personal preference. Let me first start with the strengths of the Nissan Rogue. I was actually a big fan of this generation when it first came out back in 2021. I really like how Nissan has upped the power by replacing that anemic engine with this turbocharged 3-cylinder. It's not the most refined powertrain during certain acceleration bursts. However, if you guys drive it more in a relaxed manner, you're not going to really notice some of the shudder or the clunkiness that I noticed when I was driving this vehicle a little bit more aggressively. In terms of sportiness, it's surprising to me to say that the RAV is actually the better handling vehicle and the smoother car. Although the Rogue has a little bit more interior space and it has a few luxury features and a more luxurious cabin that kind of make it appealing. It almost makes you feel like you're getting an Infiniti for Nissan money. Now, in contrast, the RAV4 is an extremely well-rounded car. I mean, there's a reason why Toyota does over 400,000 of these every year. And the RAV4 hybrid is probably a near-perfect family vehicle for about 99% of Americans out there. The hybrid model has more horsepower than most of its competitors. It gets way better gas mileage. I'm talking like 10 to 15 miles per gallon better versus a gas-only equivalent. Even compared to the regular RAV4 with its base engine, the hybrid is just a no-brainer. Now, in terms of gripes with the RAV4, the interior is far more utilitarian. It doesn't have quite as much space as the Rogue or the CR-V. However, if you can kind of look past that and you find something that's going to be reliable, efficient, and comfortable, the RAV is really a near perfect vehicle as well. And trying to choose between the two is really tough. However, after spending a week with both of these cars, I want to also point out that this is a 2022 RAV4 hybrid. It actually belongs to my parents. They've been driving it around for almost a year and have put almost 15,000 miles on this vehicle and have been averaging around 42 miles to the gallon. So for them, it's the perfect vehicle because they travel a lot. Now, in contrast, the Rogue gets about 31 miles to the gallon combined versus 40 on the RAV4. So that's something to keep in mind. It's a big difference, and it's curious to me why Nissan doesn't offer a hybrid version. Now, I will eventually redo this comparison test when I get my hands on a CR-V hybrid and compare it to this exact RAV4, but also keep in mind that Toyota has an updated RAV4 for 2023 that looks the same on the outside as this model. However, Toyota has updated the tech with their newest 10.5-inch audio multimedia system and the 12.3-inch fully digital display, which you technically can get on the Rogue. But until Nissan comes out with a hybrid version of this, my money personally would go with the RAV4, because for the same price, if not less, this is going to be a far more efficient vehicle, especially in today's high gas prices, because the Rogue, as tested, is around $43,100. This model here is around $42,100. So it's $1,000 less to go with the RAV4 hybrid, and it basically has all of the features that the Nissan has, minus of course the rear window sunshades and the third zone climate control. However, if you guys want to go step down to a gas hybrid or gas only RAV4, it'll actually be around $1,500 less. So really going with the hybrid option of the RAV is kind of a no-brainer, because Toyota keeps the pricing pretty much similar, and you're going to recoup that money back in gas savings, especially if you guys do drive a lot over just a 1 year period. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full comparison test between the 2023 Nissan Rogue and the 2022 Toyota RAV4 Hybrid. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.